Welcome to Scandal Water, where the tea is hot and the conversation lively.
Your hosts, Candy
And Ashley,
will discuss a peculiar story somehow related to the entertainment industry. This podcast might not change the world, but it just might satisfy your thirst for an intriguing tale.
Oh, it's that time of day. Tune in and hear what the ladies say. It's time to bend your ear when the silver screen appears. Stories about the stage and screen and everything in between. So come on and join the fun. The curtain opens in 3, 2, 1.
Hello, Ashley.
hello.
You know what? I think this is the first time we are actually seeing each other in 2025, so Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. How does it look outside your window?
Well, it's pretty white. How about you?
Yeah, I'm watching the poor little birds that are trying to get to their bird seed, and it is starting to snow again, which is why we are via Zoom today.
Oh, has it already started?
Oh, yeah.
It hasn't started here yet. Yeah, guys, there's a backstory. You know, we don't Zoom a lot. Typically, we do it when we have interviews.
Yes.
But we have tried twice to meet in person to record.
Yes.
The first time should have been last Tuesday, but on Sunday we had, 9 to 10 inches of snow and ice.
Yes.
Today was the backup day, and here we are.
Yeah, I'm supposed to I'm supposed to get between, I think, 3 to 5 more inches. I have not left the house since last Sunday. So
Oh, no.
how many are you supposed to get?
I think we're also 3 to 5. We
It's
have gotten
fine.
out. We have gotten out a few times, which has been nice because I get cabin fever a little bit. I will tell
I
you.
have too much to do. I haven't had even a chance to get cabin fever this time. So that's okay.
So you know what? We've mentioned we're on Zoom. So if you happen to be listening to us on a podcast app and you would like to see us wearing our red for our February series, Love Will Keep Us Together, you can jump on over to Scandal Water Podcast, our YouTube channel, and you can see us. You can say hello to us there. All right. Well, our theme this month was at the suggestion of one of our friends and listeners, wasn't it, Ashley?
Yes,
You
Miss
wanna tell about that?
Charla. Yes, Miss Charla said to us after we released the episodes where we talked about the breakups, she said, I want to hear a series and a theme about people that stay together. So we thought, hey, that's a really good way to open up the new year. You and I are looking for happier stuff to talk about. So let's do that. Let's talk about people who made it work.
I love it. And we're calling it Love Will Keep Us Together. And we are going to be talking about several lovely couples, somehow related to the entertainment industry. And we are starting today with a big one. This couple, amazing. They have been together, married 41 years.
Really?
They celebrated their 41st wedding anniversary in June of 2024. But here's the thing, Ashley. I promise this is not a gotcha. I'm just trying to illustrate a point. The husband is Denzel Washington. Do you happen to know anything about his wife?
I really don't, and I'm sorry to say that. I know him because I've seen a lot of his movies, and I think the first movie that I saw of his was Glory in maybe middle or high school, and I was so affected by his performance, and I just like him as a person.
I do too. All of the above. I echo everything you've said. And again, it wasn't a gotcha. That's what I discovered as I went into this. Her name is Pauletta, and Denzel and Pauletta are both so accomplished. Obviously, he's the name I think most of us know. He is so prominent in our minds. Pauletta, I found out, is also a very accomplished woman. She is a great person, but she is also a very talented performer. So before this is over, I hope that everybody knows a lot more about them as a couple, because I know I learned a lot. And I hope that they also come away knowing a lot more about Pauletta individually, because she is something. That
Okay,
woman
good.
is something. Yeah. This was so fun. I did not know what I was going to find out. I'm like you. I love Denzel Washington. And I think that Glory was my first time that he registered in my mind as such an incredible and talented actor. I think I had seen him in St. Elsewhere.
Oh, I didn't know he was on that.
He did. Yeah, that was kind of his big break. I think I had seen him, but if I recall, Howie Mandel was in that. And I think Howie Mandel, when I was young, was the one that I took away from St. Elsewhere the most. But when I saw Glory, Oh my goodness. I remember going into that thinking that probably the star power was going to be Matthew Broderick and Morgan Freeman. And I left that movie thinking about and talking about Denzel Washington.
That
He
one
was
scene. Do you remember that one scene where he just had that single tear coming down his face? Man, that was powerful.
so powerful. And he won an Oscar for that. Best
He should
Supporting
have.
Actor. It so deserved it. But I thought, I know we're going to be talking about them as a couple, but because we all do know Denzel so well, I thought that you guys would go with me if we kind of started with him and followed him a little bit and then bring Pauletta in when she enters his timeline. Does that sound okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So
First,
first,
I support whatever you do. You're going to go, no, I don't like the way you played this out. Start over.
let's just stop right now.
Stop right now. I support you.
Well, I did want to start with this because I didn't know about this. And I think it illustrates just how big Denzel is and why we all respect and admire him so much. I discovered in 2020, the New York Times named him as the single greatest actor of the 20th century. They were going through rating all these actors. It was a small panel of judges they had, some acclaim behind them. There was some reason they were on the panel, and they came up with their list. And here is the lead paragraph one of those judges wrote to explain their choice of Denzel Washington. We wrangled and argued about every other slot on the list, but there was no hesitation or debate about this one. Denzel Washington is beyond category, a screen titan who is also a subtle and sensitive craftsman with serious old school stage training and blazing movie star presence. He can do Shakespeare and August Wilson, villainy or action heroism. He's also one of the supreme regular guy actors. Who can forget his embattled working stiffs in Unstoppable, a movie from 2010, and The Taking of Pelham 123, which was 2009, a pair of big, noisy, train-themed movies directed by Tony Scott. Neither one is a masterpiece, but I never get tired of watching Washington on the job.
That is a really good description, because as you were bringing up those points, I was like, oh yeah, because when you first say it, you're like, really, Denzel is he? But then that all makes sense.
Yeah, all of it. And to be named the single greatest actor of the 20th century, I mean, wow. So I started researching. I didn't realize how long Denzel has been in the business. That man looks so great for his age. Did you know he's 70 now?
No, I didn't. Man.
I know. Yeah, he's amazing. So he has been acting basically since he was a teenager. That is a long career, over 5 decades. Well, 5 decades is what it's been. We've already talked a little bit about some of the breaks that he had, one of them being Saint Elsewhere. But this man, he has accomplished so much over the course of his career. I found a little summary from a Forbes magazine article. This is not all inclusive, but it touches on some of his big accomplishments. So here's a quote. He has won 2 Oscars, 3 Golden Globes, including the Cecil B. DeMille Award, a SAG, and a Tony Award. In 2022, Washington was also awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom. By the way, this is now outdated because he's won another one of those. We'll talk about that later. Washington is also a favorite of director Spike Lee. He directed his first film, Antoine Fisher, in 2002, and has since taken on director and producer roles, including for the award-winning 2016 film Fences. So just a little overview of the various things that he can do. But here's the deal. Pauletta, one of the reasons that we don't know as much about her is because they as a couple made a decision that she would step back a little bit from her career in order to take care of the kids and the family. And so this is the theme again, love will keep us together. Denzel has publicly praised her and thanked her time and time again for what she has done for him and his family. In 2018, he told People magazine, you can buy a house, but that doesn't make it a home. And not to say a man can't make a home, but my wife has made our house a home and raised these beautiful kids and protected them and sacrificed for them. She did the heavy lifting. So this is just the kind of the intro to set this up. We're going to go ahead and we're going to talk about a little bit of Denzel's background, his childhood, and we're going to kind of follow the timeline and bring her into it so that we can see them together. Okay. Do you know anything about Denzel's childhood?
Not a thing. No.
Me either. I was so surprised by this. He did an interview with Esquire magazine. It was just published November 19th of 2024. So this is very recent. He got so personal, so vulnerable, opened up about so many things about his life. This was the opening of that article from Esquire. I was with my friend Frank the night his brother murdered a guy. I know, it was Mount Vernon, New York, where I grew up. We were maybe 11, 12. My parents were getting divorced, and me and Frank were out late, just walking around, and we'd stay wherever we ended up for the night.
11 or a 12-year-old.
I know. And he goes on to reveal that the situation was that his friend's brother killed this guy named Joe, and they were friends, like they were friendly with each other. But this guy had figured out that Joe had stolen his motorcycle. And so through the course of this interview, he shares that he's there the night this murder occurs. Like this was his life. This was his childhood. Yeah. And so he talks about a lot of the challenges he faced growing up. He had caring parents, but they were both really busy trying to support the family. He described his father, also named Denzel, as handsome, charismatic, and a gentleman who led by example, but he was working 3 jobs. So he was gone all the time. And one of those 3 things that he worked at, one of his 3 jobs, was his role as a Pentecostal minister and an ordained bishop in the Church of God in Christ.
Okay.
So Denzel was raised in the church, and he said he called his dad a godly example, a gentleman, but dad was gone a lot. And then again, his parents got divorced when he was young. His mother was a very strong woman who also worked very hard to raise the kids. In fact, Denzel said that after his parents divorced, quote, "My mother was a woman in a man's world trying to make money. She and her business partner owned the beauty shop. That was a big deal then. Then they opened an ice cream shop so that we kids could work there to keep us off the street in the summer."
That's smart.
Yeah. Yeah. So his parents were really trying to steer him right. But again, they were busy working a lot. So Denzel commented he really grew up in the boys' club, and he also had a lot of freedom to spend time on the streets with his friends.
Which is the opposite of what they wanted.
Right. And he loved his friends. He did share in the interview some cool things, some fun things they did together. Denzel was in a band when he was a teenager. One of his friends was Wayne Bridges, who was Ludacris's dad. And he talked about the 2 of them meeting at the boys' club, and they one time performed a Beatles song in a talent show. So he had some of these cool memories, but he was very open about talking about some of the ways they ran the streets and some of the trouble that they got into. He used the phrase, "They were all throwing rocks at the penitentiary." So, to give a few examples, he admits they used drugs. He admits there was a time, I don't know how long, when he was selling them. And he commented, "You do what's going on around you." That's how he explained it. But he also really made a point at one part of the interview to say, he was very strong about this, quote, "Those characters I played in Training Day in American Gangster, it might look like they were close to me, and I could tell you they were, but I wasn't no gangster. I ran with them real gangsters down there, but I was not them. So let me not tell that lie to you. I had one foot in the streets, but I ain't no killer."
Wow.
One of the things that Denzel credits for helping him stay out of some of the trouble that some of his friends did end up getting into was his mother's decision to send him to a small private semi-military school called Oakland Academy in New Windsor, New York, which was near Poughkeepsie. And his mother sent him there to Oakland at the recommendation of his teachers. He talked about the fact that he tested well in school. He was bright enough. He was doing well, but his teachers were concerned about his friends and the influences around him and what he was getting into. So in his words, again, "I was throwing rocks at the penitentiary at 13. I stopped going to school much. So they sat down with my mother, said, 'Look, you need to get him out.' Said I showed potential. So she followed his advice, and he credits that move of sending him to Oakland as helping to change the course of his life. He once told Parade magazine, quote, "I wouldn't have survived in the direction I was going. The guys I was hanging out with at the time, my running buddies, have now done maybe 40 years combined in the penitentiary."
Mhm.
I know. So as for how he got into acting, he shared that it traced back to his experience with the Boys Club. Through that organization, he had an opportunity to work at a camp in Connecticut. I think it was one summer, and they did some theater, and he realized he enjoyed it. But he went on to say that his true love for acting really started when he attended Fordham University, where, in his words, he got in, flunked out, and then got in again.
Oh, that's good.
I know. He studied drama and journalism there. And he was so talented that when he first got out, he landed several small jobs. But a big break for him was when he was cast in the TV movie Wilma. More about that in just a second. But another big break came when he was cast not long after that in the play A Soldier's Play. That was 1981. That led not only to his getting cast in the movie version of that play called A Soldier's Story, which came out in 1984, that also led to his Saint Elsewhere job. And we've already talked about the fact that that really got his career going.
Mhm.
So this brings us to Pauletta. So I know we're going to go back to that TV movie. This is where she comes into the story. I'm going to play a small clip right now, very short. This is Denzel telling Kelly Ripa and Ryan Seacrest back when they did the morning show together, how he and his future wife met.
Where did you guys meet?
On a job.
Is that right?
Yeah, the first movie I ever did, TV movie, was about Wilma Rudolph.
Huh.
And I played Wilma Rudolph's boyfriend, became her husband. And Pauletta was one of the track stars in the.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I met her then, but I didn't meet her then.
Yeah.
Right.
I saw her then.
You saw her then. She caught your eye.
She set me up.
Yeah.
With
And then you sent her a text and said,
no, I sent her a text. Yeah, right. In those days, we never text. About a year later, there was a party I was invited to. She invited me to, or somebody invited me, and she was there. And then I had talked at that party. I talked about going to see a play. I went to see the play, and at intermission, the lights came up, and she was sitting. She said she just happened to go see the.
Yeah, but I don't believe it.
I'm getting in trouble as I speak.
Do you remember?
Isn't that cute?
That is cute. Yeah, sure. You just happened to be there.
And she has told the story in interviews. She insists that it was accidental. We're actually going to come back to that. But
Okay.
since we've heard his version, let's flesh it out just a little bit more. Okay. This movie, Wilma, was actually a made-for-TV biopic that came out in 1977. And as he shared, they didn't really connect at that time, but that is when they first saw each other and crossed paths. And she backs that up. She agrees that part is the way it happened. But let's talk about Pauletta first. So her maiden name was Pauletta Pearson, and she was raised in North Carolina by parents who were both educators. Her dad was a school principal and her mother was a teacher. And a fun fact is that Pauletta made history in 1970 as the first Black contestant in the Miss North Carolina pageant, where she finished as the second runner-up.
Aw.
Gorgeous. I have a picture. We're going to put it in show notes.
Okay.
Love it. But here's what is so fascinating. She is so talented. According to a People magazine article, she is a classically trained vocalist and pianist.
Ooh.
They talked about the fact that she began entering piano competitions when she was only 10 years old.
Wow.
And then her musical talent led her to the North Carolina School of the Arts, then Juilliard in New York, and then she did graduate work at North Texas University.
Wow.
I know. I love this part because, I worked at Opryland, so I'm connected to theme parks. But she got a job in musical theater at the Six Flags Over Texas theme park and loved it. But it was her Six Flags musical director who recommended, for the sake of your career, you've got to go to New York. And she did. And that's where she began her acting career, performing on Broadway.
Oh, well, that's true. Well, when you go to Juilliard, I think that gives you a leg up, and you get a little bit to the front of the line there.
That's true. But it also means you're super talented, because
Yeah.
otherwise you don't get into
But
Juilliard.
yes.
Yeah. But she performed in Jesus Christ Superstar and Shakespeare's Cabaret, and probably other things too, but those were two that I noted. Then she decided to try her hand at some TV and film jobs, which is what led to her first on-screen role as one of the track stars in the film Wilma, where she ran across Denzel Washington. And I don't know if we said that, but it was his first film as well. Like, they were both making their film debut. Circling back to where we left off, we heard Denzel's version of how we met, and we know that Pauletta's version is just a tiny bit different. So this is what she told Oprah in 1996. Denzel and his friends came at the very end of the party. We spoke again. We were reintroduced. And the next night I attended a play, and I got there late, so I snuck in and just sat down. I didn't look at who was around me, and at intermission, the lights came up and we were sitting next to each other. And then she went on to tell Oprah that she grew attracted to him over time. She said, I thought he was cute, but I fell in love with his spirit, really. That I saw first. And then I thought, not a bad package, you know? So they started dating, and soon they were a very serious couple. But another point that they tell, the little story they tell differently is about how many times he proposed, because he says he proposed, she turned him down, he proposed again. She says that he actually proposed twice, and she said no before she accepted his third proposal.
Why did she turn him down?
I don't know. They never said that part, but they ended up getting married in June of 1983. I have a picture that I will put in show notes of that as well from their wedding. And apparently they had a really good time socializing with everybody, because Denzel told Jimmy Kimmel in 2017 that, quote, we were shaking so many hands, taking pictures, they ran out of food. We ended up at a diner. We had eggs or something. True story. One last thing we'll talk about before we go to break, because it's also around this same time period, is what Denzel refers to in that Esquire interview as one, well, he calls it the biggest moment in his life. And he says it occurred in either 1983 or 1984. So it's right around this time. It was such a big deal that he said it changed his whole life and affected his career. So what happened was, he said he was invited to church by a Hollywood friend, and he had a spiritual experience that he said he had never had before, even though he had been raised in church. Here's an excerpt from the interview. The biggest moment of my life was when I was filled with the Holy Spirit. It happened in the West Angeles Church of God in Christ, Crenshaw Boulevard, Los Angeles. And he talked about how it happened and how he went down front and the praying, and he gave a lot of detail in the interview. But he said it affected everything, including his acting and his career choices. So here is a little excerpt from that part. My faith has always informed the roles I choose. Always. I've always been led by God, and most of my performances are faith-filled. Even if I was playing the devil, I still have my shooting script from training day, and I wrote on the cover, the wages of sin is death. The wages of sin is death. And now, all these years later, in Gladiator 2, I play another bad guy in another great movie. Even in the darkest stories, I'm looking for the light.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah. Moving back into the timeline, remember they were married in 1983. This experience happened around 1983 or 1984, but they as a couple decided they were ready for a family. They started right away. Their first son, John David Washington, arrived a year after their marriage in July of 1984. By that time, Denzel was starring in St. Elsewhere, which, as we said before, was huge for him. So Pauletta made the decision at that time to step back from her work with music and acting to focus on their family. And this is what she said to Wendy Williams back in a 2011 interview. When I became pregnant, St. Elsewhere was shooting in Los Angeles, and I was here on Broadway. Where would the child be, in the air? So I decided that I wanted to. It was my choice to be home and create a home. I'm so happy I did.
I'm glad it was her choice. And it sounds like she was driving the decision. It wasn't Denzel saying, well, I've already gotten TV, so let's focus on me. That she made the decision that this is the life that she wanted for herself, and that she was glad she did it.
Right. Because a lot of Hollywood couples or entertainment type couples, both of them will continue their careers and very successfully. But this sounded like a decision that they both agreed on. She's the one driving it, as you said, and it turned out really well for them. They were happy with the path they took.
Yes.
So the Washingtons added 3 more children to their family over the course of the next several years. Their daughter Katia was born in 1986, and twins Olivia and Malcolm arrived in 1991. And why don't we take a break there and come back to talk more about this couple?
You all know one of my favorite things is time travel, and we are experiencing it right now. Candy and I are appearing to you from the future. Minisode that we just recorded.
That's right. We just recorded this month's minisode where we discuss some of our favorite longtime couples that we will not be able to cover in our regular February episodes. From Goldie and Kurt to Oprah and Stedman to Michael and Tracy and more.
And with your membership to Scandal Water Podcast through either Patreon or a Buy Me a Coffee, you will not only be able to join us for this minisode, but also our other bonus content. Most are audio only, but a few, such as the one released today, are video.
So visit our website, scandalwaterpodcast.com, and become a Scandal Water member today. Cheers! And we're back. We all know over the next few decades, Denzel's star power continued to rise. Yep. We don't have time to name everything he's done, but just to hit a few of his more than 50 films, that man has done Cry Freedom, Malcolm X, Philadelphia, Crimson Tide, Remember the Titans, Training Day, Antoine Fisher, Flight, Fences, and of course, just in the last few months, he's been in Gladiator 2.
I've not seen that yet. I did see Gladiator 1 a long time ago. I would like to see Gladiator 2. I don't think it's gotten the best reviews, but I always think make up your own mind. I will tell you, I thought his performance in Flight was phenomenal. I don't know if you've seen it or not. Kelly Riley's in it.
That one.
Kelly Riley's in it for people who like Yellowstone. It's the lady who plays Beth, which I've not seen Yellowstone, but I know she plays that. And he plays an alcoholic. I don't remember if it's based on a true story or not. I don't know. I'm getting that and Sully mixed up maybe. But he plays an alcoholic pilot who there's like some kind of disturbance and he lands the plane while he's drunk, but he saves all these people's lives. But when they find out that he was drunk, they put him on trial for being drunk.
Wow.
So his performance is just, it's incredible. And the plane crash or the almost plane crash at the top, boy, that was realistic. Talk about like an adrenaline rush when you watch that. You also won't want to fly.
Well, I need to see that. You know, I've seen so many of his movies because I'm going to tell you, I am a real fan. If Denzel is in a movie, that's a draw for me. Mm-hmm. So I have seen a huge number of his movies. I don't think there's a single time where I've left the theater and thought he did not give a great performance. There may have been times when I didn't like a movie as much,
right?
But he's always solid. That man is always powerful, no matter what the role. So
right, and I've told the kids that I work with, or actors that I work with, like if you're in a play, you can be the best part of a play. You know, mm-hmm. So you can, even if the film maybe wasn't that commercially successful or the audiences didn't respond to it, you can still be the best part of the film. Always be excellent in your work.
Yeah. And he's lived up to that. I mean, he's the example. What I didn't know is how talented he has been on stage. I didn't realize he's done as much stage work as he had. He's won a Tony Award. He's done more than this, but 3 of his critically acclaimed performances on stage would be Fences, A Raisin in the Sun, and The Iceman Cometh. And he is actually returning to Broadway in early 2025 in Shakespeare's Othello, starring alongside Jake Gyllenhaal. Whoa. I didn't know that. I know. As far as directing goes, we've already said Antoine Fisher was one of his very popular films. He directed that. So that was his debut in 2002. He has since directed 3 more films, I believe. And he's also a producer. He started a production company in the late 90s. So this man has done it all. He's been nominated for a million things. We're not going to go through all the Golden Globes and Oscars and Tonys, but he's been recognized for other things as well. He was People's Sexiest Man Alive in 1996.
And that's the top of the resume. Shakespeare, Broadway. I was the sexiest man alive. I'm leaving at that.
He received the Golden Globe Cecil B. DeMille Award in 2016, and he was honored with the American Film Institute's Lifetime Achievement Award in 2019. Well, meanwhile, even though Pauletta did step back and make family her primary focus, she continued to take on a few projects, even when her kids were young. And after they grew up and were adults, she then began to take on even more. So let me just give you a few of her achievements. Pauletta recorded the song It's in Your Eyes for the soundtrack of the 1993 film Philadelphia, starring Denzel and Tom Hanks. And she was also a featured pianist in the soundtrack for the film Antoine Fisher. She appeared in the film Beloved with Oprah Winfrey and Danny Glover. And in the early 2000s, she was a series regular on the TV show The Parkers, starring Monique. Again, with her kids grown now, she has been even more active, particularly in TV. So a few examples from 2017 to 19, she worked on the series adaptation of She's Gotta Have It. And in 2021, she played Aretha Franklin's grandmother, Rachel, in the biography series Genius Aretha Franklin. And she currently plays Mama Lou in the series Reasonable Doubt on Hulu.
Oh, cool.
But over the years, they have shared some goals and achievements as a couple. So I'm going to hit just a few of those. One would be philanthropy. These two together believe in giving back. And so they have supported several causes individually and together. I'm going to name just a few. Pauletta is one of the founding and executive members of the Brain Trust of Cedars-Sinai, a group that raises money and awareness for research into brain tumors and the central nervous system. She's also on the board of trustees at Spelman College. Together, they created the Pauletta and Denzel Washington Gifted Scholars Program in Neuroscience. According to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, this program offers undergraduates and graduate-level researchers the funds and resources to work with renowned physicians, neurosurgeons, and scientists in their fields. I saw that they award 2 scholarships every year, and in 2005, this couple won a BET Humanitarian Award for their work with this cause.
It makes me wonder if they had someone that they cared about or knew or loved in there. Specifically, looks like their philanthropy is related to the brain. So I wonder if someone in their life had struggles with that, because you tend to, we all as a human race, we tend to focus on the things that are affecting people that we love or ourselves. It's just who we are. So I wonder if that means something.
Me too. I wondered the same thing. There must be some type of personal or emotional connection to that. And speaking of personal connections, because of how it impacted his own life, Denzel has served as the national spokesperson for the Boys and Girls Clubs of America for around 30 years now.
That's good.
I mean, he is behind that organization, which I love. And on January 4th, just a week or so ago, Denzel was awarded his second Presidential Medal of Freedom. We mentioned that earlier. I had to look it up. I wasn't sure exactly what this was. It is an award that recognizes public figures who have made notable contributions to American society, culture, politics, or world peace. As we said, he's won it before. That was 2022. And now he's received it again in 2025. A portion of the White House statement released around this said, President Biden believes great leaders keep the faith, give everyone a fair shot, and put decency above all else. These 19 individuals are great leaders who have made America and the world a better place. Philanthropy, one of the things that these two come together around. Another may sound pretty obvious, but it's a big one for them. Their children. We've already said Denzel has always given a lot of credit to Pauletta for being the parent who was so very hands-on during their kids' childhood years. But these parents have both been a huge influence, because I have seen source after source where the kids will talk about their parents and they give praise to both of them. They will talk about Denzel's influence and his wonderful career, and Paulette's influence and how she's been such a supporter. I mean, so it's clear these have been some great parents. All 4 of them have followed in their parents' footsteps. In fact, this is really cool. Just recently, they were all, the entire family, involved in the movie The Piano Lesson that came out this past year and is now on Netflix.
Oh,
yeah, I know. I I had no idea. We've already talked about the fact that Denzel was involved with Fences. He did the play, he did the movie. So this is another August Wilson work. That was the playwright, and it's an adaptation, The Piano Lesson, and Denzel did produce it.
Can you back up a second? I just had a bird just fly straight into my window.
No, is it okay?
Yes, it just went fong. So sorry about that. So back up to the I lost
Let's
my
leave that in.
Do you want to?
Yes, let's leave that in. This is real life.
It's real life. That poor bird there's a little feather stuck to the window now, where I'm sure he's going, blah, blah, blah. There's probably stars circling his head. Okay, I'm sorry. Go back to the piano. It's fine. That's happened before. Yes. August Wilson.
Okay, so The Piano Lesson is another adaptation of an August Wilson work, and Denzel was a producer on this project, although he was quoted as saying in an interview that he really didn't have to do anything, that his kids were so skilled and adept at doing their job that they didn't really need him. It was kind of like, Dad, go on home, we're fine,
Okay.
But here's how the family was involved. Their oldest son, John David, who, side note, had a brief career as a professional football player.
Oh, wow.
I know, but he is now an actor. He's been in a handful of films and gotten some really nice buzz. This man is talented.
Yeah,
but
I saw him in Amsterdam with Margot Robbie and Christian Bale. It was a really good film, so I recommend that movie if you want to see. It's a little weird, but I really liked it. It was kind of my kind of weird. So there you go.
Well, in 2022, John David performed in a Broadway, actually it was the Broadway production of The Piano Lesson with Samuel L. Jackson and Danielle Brooks. And of course, this led into his getting this same role in the movie version of this work. So he does star in the movie, one of the stars. And then Katya, the oldest daughter, she graduated from Yale and she works as a producer. So she was an executive producer for this film. One of the twins, Olivia, is an actress. I think she might also do some modeling, but she plays a small role in the movie. A fun note is that she plays young Mama Ola, and her mom, Pauletta, plays Mama Ola. So love that. And then the other twin, Malcolm, his career focus has been on directing and producing. And this film is actually his directorial debut.
Cool.
So you want to talk about a family affair.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, this was a family affair. So they've all had their careers, and their parents are very involved. And I love this quote from Denzel in this same Esquire interview that I've mentioned several times. He was asked about his greatest achievement, and he said, quote, "When I think of what I'm proudest of, anything I've accomplished doesn't even come to mind. It's our children. They're good people. They know right from wrong. What else can you ask for, That alone, all four of them healthy and in their right mind. Enough said."
Oh, I love it. I love it.
I do too. And the last thing that I'm going to bring out that the two are focused on together would be their marriage. They have both been quoted several times as talking about the fact that it's a priority for them. Their relationship matters to them. They're committed to it. In 1995, they renewed their vows in South Africa in a ceremony that was officiated by Desmond Tutu. And remember, we talked about the fact that they just celebrated their 41st wedding anniversary midway through 2024. And when she was asked about the secret behind their long, successful marriage, Pauletta told People magazine, "We work at it. It's work. There are lots of prayers for strength for staying in a forgiveness mode on both parts, mine and his, but it's the basic love that we had for each other." And then to share one other quote from her, I love this one. I don't know. Did you see this in the news recently, Ashley, that Denzel has become a minister?
No, I did not.
Okay. Just this past December, right before Christmas, he was baptized and received a minister's license at the Kelly Temple Church of God in Christ in New York. And this was, he posted about it. There was a lot of news articles and things about it. Pauletta spoke briefly at that ceremony. And when she did, she told that story again of the two of them meeting and how they were in the play together and she was sitting beside him. And after telling that story, she commented, The lights came on at intermission and we were sitting next to each other. And 45, 46 years later, here I'm still sitting next to him as only God will have it. And I'm so very proud of him.
Oh,
That's sweet.
that's really sweet.
Okay, but I'm gonna give Denzel the last word. When he accepted the AFI Life Achievement Award back in 2019, during part of his acceptance speech, he thanked Pauletta. And so I'm going to let you hear this directly from him.
The most important person in my life. 40 years of sacrifice, 40 years of forgiveness. She taught me about faith, spirituality, love, real love, unwavering love. In spite of myself, I would not be alive without Pauletta Washington. I wouldn't be alive.
Wow.
That's beautiful. He
I
wouldn't
know.
be alive.
I know. Talk about a tribute to your spouse right there. Yeah. Well, that brings us to the armchair, Ashley.
Oh my goodness.
I know. Love will keep us together is the theme for this month.
Yeah.
What stood out to you about this particular love story between Denzel and Pauletta?
I think we already talked about it a little bit. I like the fact that there was sacrifice, but it was a willing sacrifice by her. Like she chose, this is the life I want. I want us to focus on your career and I want to step back and I want to focus on raising our children, and that they put a priority on their family instead of the career. Like they felt like this is the best way for our family to stay together and to be cohesive and to grow into what we want. Like he said, they're all in their right mind. They're all good people. They know right from wrong. And that was what they wanted. And that was their focus. So it wasn't so much like riches and fame. That all came anyway, because I think they were wise in their choices of how they wanted to have their family grow together. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. And I'm thinking about how I would answer. I mean, it's similar, I think, to what you said. I didn't play this, but as I was going through some of the videos, that AFI honorary ceremony for Denzel included a tribute from Julia Roberts. And one of the comments she made was, they've been friends for such a long time. She has so much respect and admiration for him. And she was talking about when she first met him in terms of doing the Pelican Brief together. Yes. And she said, what stands out to me the most, I mean, there's so many things about this man and his talent and his charisma and all that. She said, but what stands out to me the most was meeting Pauletta and his family and seeing that he's in this film, but his values and his priorities were around they were still first. They were still first. And so I think what stands out to me, similar to what you said, is the fact that they seem so grounded into their shared goals and their shared priorities.
And I didn't mention that, but the fact that they put their priorities in their faith and that he felt like God was leading him in wherever he went. And I feel like he was being blessed because he made that choice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm telling you, I enjoyed this. I did not know about Denzel's childhood. I didn't know about the challenges he'd been through. I had no idea what an accomplished, admirable woman Pauletta was, but I loved learning about them individually. I loved seeing them together and seeing how they just seem to be made for each other, and to see how their legacy is continuing through their children. I just thought all of it was beautiful. I love that we started February this way. This was truly the happy episode that we wanted, I think.
I think it was. Thank you for picking them.
Thanks. Well, then let's end with a big cheers to Denzel and Pauletta. Thank you for being an inspiration to your family and to everyone else around you.
And to us.
Right. Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers.
If you love what we do, please rate and review our show. Or you can become a supporter by making a donation through buymeacoffee.com/scandalwaterpod. Whether a single gift or a recurring monthly donation, it would go a long way towards supporting our work and allowing us to keep the tea brewing.
At our website, www.scandalwaterpodcast.com, you can submit questions or your own story ideas, access our sources and show notes, see the merch we offer for sale, and more. You can join the Scandal Water community through our Scandal Water Podcast Facebook page or follow us on Instagram or TikTok at Scandal Water Podcast.
This episode was executive produced by Candy Thomas, that's me, and Ashley Raymer Brown.
That's me.
It was researched and written by Candy Thomas and edited by Ashley Raymer Brown.
A special thank you to Josh Martin, who wrote, composed, and performed the Scandal Water theme and other music. Matt C. Adams, who created the artwork, and Joshua Reith, who designed our website and provides ongoing technical support.
As a reminder, this podcast is purely for entertainment purposes. The thoughts and opinions of the host during each episode of Scandal Water are their own and do not reflect the opinions of any future guests, advertisers, or clearly professional psychologists. Thanks for listening.